This video expands on the previous one, so if you haven't watched the vehicle tutorial, please do so first. Let's begin by loading the Alfa Romeo Moto scene. And we're also going to double click to load the Chimp vehicle preset assembly file. Now we'll select all of our car mesh items, and over in the web browser of our tablet, we'll go to Help and say Setup Vehicle. Back in Moto, we can see the setup is complete and we're ready to go. So we're just going to select this center yellow triangle, which will bring up the options for the Chimp vehicle assembly. As shown in the previous video, we can select Show Projectors to be able to see the projectors up here. And in the previous video, it was mentioned that these should be set above the highest point on the ground mesh. And you can adjust that by dragging on the projector heights here. Now, if I just select these four projectors, you'll see how they work. So they're shooting a ray down, and the point at which it meets the ground mesh determines where the wheels will be placed. So obviously, if the ground mesh was above these projectors, they wouldn't be able to shoot the ray down and figure out where the ground lock point should be. So let's open the Chimp vehicle assembly and select that ground mesh item we were talking about. Now, the assembly comes with a basic default ground mesh, but if you want to use your own ground mesh item, what you would do is copy it in a component mode, like polygon mode, and then paste it into this existing ground mesh item, replacing the default geometry that's been provided. Don't delete or try to remove this ground mesh item because it has a bunch of rigging applied that is necessary to make the assembly work as intended. So next, let's go into edge mode, and I'm going to select a few of these edge loops and just move them down. There we go. So now I'll go back into item mode, select our central control, and we'll take a look at this ground lock percentage. Now, as I slide that down to 0, that means we have no ground locking. So now the car is just hovering up there. And when we increase that to 100%, now it's locked to the ground. The next parameter is the ground contact height. So if we increase that or decrease it, it's where the ground will be contacted. So for example, if you wanted to make your car look like it's driving through mud, you could decrease that to make the wheels sink into the ground, or you can go the other way. If you're getting a strange point of contact, you can just compensate a little bit with that. Mostly, I leave it at 0. Now, the steering degrees comes set by default to 30 degrees, and that's the maximum amount that the front wheels will turn. So let's try to see how this works over on the tablet. I'll just turn. And if you take a look at those front wheels, you can see how much that they're turning. So that's the 30 degrees. Let's increase the steering degrees up to something crazy. And now as I turn, you can see how much more extreme that is of those front wheels turning. So obviously for car, you're generally going to want to keep it somewhere around 30 degrees. Depends on the vehicle, but it also depends on the type of scene you're doing and how your particular vehicle is set up. The next option is the steering ratio. Now this is how much the steering wheel in the car will turn for each degree of the front wheels. So in this case, for every 1 degree that these front wheels are turning, the steering wheel will turn 3 times that, so it'll turn 3 degrees. I'll try to see if we can get a look at it. It's a little bit difficult. If I am turning, you can see that the steering wheel is turning pretty much 90 degrees, although the front wheels themselves are only turning 30 degrees. So that is the effect of the steering ratio. And if we were to increase this, then the wheel would turn even more as those front wheels turn.